Ohjelmayhteistyössä mukana
Tervetuloa peliohjelma Scoren pariin Kölnin Gamescomiin. Näitä pelijuhlia on vietetty jo 10 vuoden ajan. Nyt lähdetään pelien pariin. Tervetuloa mukaan!
I am Bogdan Bridinel. I am the game director of the PvP mode in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I've worked with Ubisoft for 13 years. Actually, they may have been more. I've lost track over the course of time. I've been here for a long time and I've worked on games like Watch Dogs and Ghost Recon. Of course, as a young boy, I loved video games. Back then, we were living in communist Romania, so it wasn't that easy to get them and the technology was slightly behind the rest of the world. But I just loved it, and I went to computer science school really, and it just blew up from there. I spent a few years in journalism actually, and then ended up in Ubisoft, which has a really big studio in Bucharest. The Bucharest studio has a long collaboration with the Paris studio, which is leading the development of the Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and it was the same in Ghost Recon Wildlands. And I ended up working with them, and I really like the franchise and the games. Ghost Recon is, first of all, a military shooter. It takes place, Ghost Recon Breakpoint takes place in a huge open world on an island in the Pacific. And it features these soldiers, these special operation soldiers that are the best of the best. And in this particular game, in Breakpoint, they are facing their toughest ever enemies that are former special operation soldiers like themselves. I lead the team that makes the PvP mode, so the player versus player mode. I work together on creating all of the game modes, all of the maps, and all of the specific features that you have in PvP. And for Breakpoint specifically, worked a lot also on how our component, our PvP component, matches with the rest of the game, because now you play the same character across the entire game. When playing alone or playing in co-op with other players, or when playing in PvP, you're the same person, you have the same tools, same weapons, everything. In Breakpoint, the PvP mode is fully integrated with the PvE experience, with the rest of the world. You can seamlessly move between them. You can start a PvP match while you're still in the world. You keep your character, keep everything. And we are bringing in all of the new stuff that's part of the rest of the game, like the way we treat injuries and fatigue and all of these real issues that soldiers have. We also have a very tactical gameplay in the PvP experience. It's not just about running and shooting. We call it be the hunter or be the hunted. You always have to watch out and to think, where are the enemies? How do I get them and how do I surprise them in order to win? There were, I could say that for PvP there were a few challenges. In Breakpoint, one of the new things that we did is that we built our own maps. In the previous game we used locations from the existing world. This time, because we wanted the maps to be much better, we built them ourselves, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of fine-tuning to make the best PvP maps that we could. And of course, making the PvP well integrated with the rest of the game was another challenge. There are always, each object in the game has to work perfectly in all of the components of the game, which can be a big challenge. In Ghost Recon Breakpoint, the player is lost and behind enemy lines without support, and he has to do what he can. And for this reason, we wanted to add these features that create the feeling of being behind enemy lines, being stranded. So we have your management of the terrain and how this makes you tired. We have injuries that you have to bandage. We have various objects that you can craft, like food rations. We have some that we call the bivouac, where you can go, rest, prepare for the next missions. The bivouac also works in co-op, so all 4 players can go there and strategize and go further. And a lot of these features you will also find in the PvP mode. So for instance, the terrain, the way the terrain affects your movement or the injuries are not part just of the survival in the world, but also in the PvP environment. In a game, we prefer to think about authenticity. So our goal is not to make it real. Our goal is to make the players feel like it's a real experience, and to make them think about all of these things and perceive, for instance, in our case, the danger, perceive all of these elements that make up the world, and also the military component. Our fans, a lot of them are really interested in these details, like how weapons look and how tactical gear looks, and we try to recreate that. But of course, still we are very interested in the experience being engaging and fun, and we wouldn't go too far into making it realistic until it becomes, let's say, boring or frustrating.
Ohjelmayhteistyössä mukana